Welcome. Welcome to this session. I don't know whether to call it a practice or a session, but this is what we've labelled mindfulness, meditation and embodiment. And we started these sessions 2 weeks ago, and we're going through a series of themes. And the first theme 2 weeks ago was self-care, exploring an embodiment pose related to that, and you'll understand a little bit more if you're new to it as we go along. So just to begin, give yourself some time to arrive in this space, and we'll have a centering together. You can sit how you wish. You don't have to be on the ground or on a cushion. You can be in a chair, you can be anywhere. If you are sitting on a mat or the floor, it's really nice to have a cushion under your hips and just raise them a little, and perhaps tilting your pelvis a little forward so you're not rounding. And with centering, this one is what we call an ABC. So first of all in centering, usually we keep our eyes open, not closed, with a soft gaze, but we do that so that you can use centering in other areas of your life. Say if you're suddenly anxious or stressed or met with a difficult situation and it's not practical to close your eyes. So I do invite you to keep your eyes open. Having said that, everything is an invitation, so you need to choose what is right for you. So A is awareness, just noticing how you feel. Noticing your body today, any areas of tension or discomfort, anything that you need to take particular care of as we move through this next hour. Be aware of the space that you're in, maybe sounds in the distance or nearby, the temperature, the air around you. And then notice your breath. We're still in A for awareness, bringing awareness to your breath. Notice your inhale. There's no need to change it. Just notice the inhale, the slight pause at the top of the inhale, and the breath turning into the exhale, and the slight gap at the end of the exhale. And the breath just continuing in a wave without your input. B is balance. So whether you're sitting or standing, just have a little rock, forwards and backwards, side to side, even moving up and down, and settling in that place where your body requires the least effort. So it's supporting itself. Just notice with even small movements where that is. We often sit in a way that actually we have more tension required to sit like that. And when you haven't noticed, you don't know to correct it, to change it, to make it have a little bit more ease and softness. B for balance. And perhaps you can bring some balance to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out equally. And C is core. So taking our attention to our core, and I'll guide you through that. If we inhale, you can find length up through the spine and up through the crown of the head. And then as you exhale, see if you can find softness in your forehead, your cheeks, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your belly. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and find that softness and ease in the core. Perhaps even take a breath and exhale through the mouth. And then there's another C. C for connection. And for those on the Zoom, it might be thinking or looking at the people in the Zoom room. And for all of us, it's about thinking of someone or something, an animal perhaps, a partner, friend, relative, past or present, somebody that brings a warm feeling to you, somebody that makes your heart smile. And take one more breath and let it out through the mouth. And notice how you feel. Notice if that ABC had any impact, any shift in how you feel, in your nervous system, in your body, in your breath. That ABC is really good if you're feeling low or sluggish. It can bring you up. And if you're feeling a bit anxious and hyper, it can bring you back to even. Embodiments. So some of you are familiar with what this is all about, and you've heard of mindfulness, and embodiment is like mindfulness with bells on. So it is taking it from just the head, from the head and the thoughts and the thinking processes, and feeling it through our body as well, so that we don't disconnect the head and the mind from the body. We treat ourselves as one because we are a body. We're not a mind on its own. The first session we did was 2 weeks ago, and we did self-care pose. And some of you will not have come across that before and won't have seen that recording. So we'll have a little reminder, because I feel that self-care pose, an embodiment pose, underpins so much of what we do and so much of the things that I guide. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can be standing, you can be seated, you can be lying in bed even. And self-care pose, taking one hand across your body to the opposite shoulder and the other hand around to the lower ribs on the opposite side. I'm just being careful I don't squish my microphone. Dropping the head to one side and down and letting your gaze soften, or your eyes closed. But if it's uncomfortable for you, you can keep your eyes open. Just soften the gaze. And feel into that embrace, filled with self-care, self-compassion, self-kindness, self-love, giving an extra squeeze. And if this brings emotion and even tearfulness, that's okay. Perhaps swapping sides, because it can feel quite different on opposite sides. Hand across to the shoulder, hand around to the lower ribs, dropping the head and tilting to the side. It doesn't matter which side. Softening the gaze or closing your eyes. And feeling into that hug. If you feel you are in need of self-care, this is something that you can add to your daily practice. You can practice this morning, night, any time of day. Give an extra squeeze and let that go. And there's two more subtle versions of self-care. Well, the first isn't quite subtle, but it's a bit less. One hand on heart, one hand on belly. And again, feeling that love, kindness, compassion to you, from you. Letting whatever arises, arise, and then just letting it go. And the last way is a super subtle version for when you're perhaps with people and you don't want them to see that you're needing some self-care and administering self-care. And just taking the hands together so that you're gripping the fingers of the opposite hand. So you can do that even under a table or quietly on your knee. Nobody needs to know. And give a squeeze. squeeze from you to you. That self-kindness, self-compassion, self-love. You can swap the other way round if you wish, but you don't have to. And the reason we practice these things when we don't need them, so we can use them when we do need them. If we don't practice, we don't think about using them. And then letting that go. Have a little shimmy. We like a shimmy and a shake. In fact, an invitation to stand up, just to have, I'll kick back my cushion, a better shimmy and a shake. Shake it off. Very good to shake off any residue of emotions. Even have a really good shake or a bounce. That helps as well. Okay, so you can sit down again. I will have you standing shortly, but you can always sit. There's never any fixed rule. Thinking today about letting go. And it may be a feeling or emotion. It may be a thought. It may be something that's happened to you that you're just harboring this thing and it's stuck in your mind, or you feel it somewhere in your body and you're struggling to let go. So I have two things I'd like to introduce you to. One will be the embodiment pose, which is really quite simple. It's just about knowing when to apply it. But first, I'd like to introduce you to another practice that's for letting go that one of my teachers taught me, Caroline Arewa, when I did my spiritual coach training. Not to be mistaken for religious training. It's nothing to do with religion. It's more about your own spirituality. So I invite you to think of something that niggles you, bothers you, that really you don't want interfering with your thoughts or being attached to maybe your gut or your throat and feeling it. Now, don't pick something too horrendous because you're practicing. So something maybe like on a 3 out of 10 on severity, not a 9 or an 8. If we're doing a 9 or an 8 or something like that, we'd want to be in person or at least talking openly on Zoom, certainly not recording, and approaching it in a slightly different way. So this is about practicing the skill and being introduced to this exercise. So think of that thing, whatever it is. And initially it might appear to you as a thought and it's in your head only. So my invitation is to explore and notice as you think about it, what you do in your body, where you might feel it in your body. There's no right or wrong answer. And if at any point you think, well, I don't feel that, that's okay as well. It's okay. If you don't feel it, imagine where it might be in your body. It might be in your gut, in your belly, in your chest, in your throat. It might even be in your hands and your fingertips. And then imagine what it might look like as a form. It might be round, it might have a shape. And think what texture it could have. Again, you may have something immediately comes to mind, or you may need to imagine. Perhaps it's gooey and sticky or fluid but thick. Perhaps it's an unpleasant sensation if you were to touch it. Perhaps it's not unpleasant. And then consider that where it is in your body and that what it looks like, that texture, the colour even. And then, keeping it there in your mind, taking one hand to heart and one hand to belly. And listen to these words, and I invite you to listen to them and perhaps repeat them either in your mind, in your head, or out loud. Soften and flow. Release and flow. I choose to let this go. Soften and flow. Release and flow. I choose to let this go. Perhaps let go of your hands and notice if there is a shift in either how you feel, sensations in your body, or how you imagine this thing. Has it shrunk? Has it diminished? Has it stayed the same? There isn't a right answer, and some people find that the thing will shrink, and for some people it will disappear. For some, there might be a delay, and it later shrinks or disappears. And you can repeat it. So we'll go through that once more before we move on to the embodiment pose. So hand to heart, hand to belly. You don't have to do that. Again, it's an invitation. Imagine or sense the thing, where you feel it in your body, or imagine where it may be in your body. Soften and flow. Release and flow. I choose to let this go. Soften and flow. Release and flow. I choose to let this go. Let go of your hands. And notice whatever arises. Again, sometimes even with something that's quite a small thing, it can trigger emotion, and that's okay. And you can always use your self-care pose at the end of doing something like that. Just having that extra squeeze, that extra bit of love, self-kindness, self-compassion. Staying or swapping. And notice. Okay, before we move on to the embodiment pose, I'm going to pause the recording and speak to the Zoomies just to check in that they're all okay. Okay. First, have a little shake again. Shake that off. Maybe even have a swing side to side, just noticing what your body needs, what it would like. A swing's always good. I'm quite a swayer anyway. I'm a natural swayer. In fact, when I was a medical student and a junior doctor, and I used to have to stand in theatre holding on to things, and I always thought I was going to faint, and I used to have to sway side to side in order to not topple over. So, I'll probably chop that bit out. So, letting go pose. Letting go pose is basically a forward fold. But I'm going to show you standing, sitting on the mat, and sitting in a chair. And some of the poses in the embodiment world are poses we know from yoga or martial arts, various things like that. It's what we're doing with them that matters. We're changing how we're thinking about them. So you may wish to have something to rest on. That can be a table. You do not need any special equipment ever. It could be a table, it could even be a chair, it could be a kitchen unit. Kitchen units are fantastic for emergency supports. And coming into a forward fold, your feet hip width apart is usually more comfortable for the lower spine. Some people like the feet together. I find that very uncomfortable on the lower spine. Softening your knees, bending them as much as you need, because if you have really straight legs, you can easily put strain on your spine, on your back. So softening at the knees, hinging at the hips. So we're not rounding through the spine, we're hinging at the hips, keeping the spine nice and straight, nice and long. Hinging at the hips, coming into a forward bend. It does not matter how far you bend. You can let your arms just hang. You might be up here, that's fine. You might be right the way down. You might have blocks or something to rest your hands on. But the point is the sensation of letting things go and even visualizing whatever it is coming down your arms and out of your fingertips. In fact, with our soften and flow, you can move on to this, because sometimes people can visualize whatever it is that's leaving their body, leaving their consciousness, is coming out through the fingertips or through the toes. So keeping the knees as soft as you wish and letting the body hang. Just checking your head. You can give a little nod, yes and no, side to side, forward and backwards, to make sure you're not holding tension. Make sure you're not falling into your toes and your weight is still spread over your feet. And hanging. And when you come up, generously bend the knees, lengthen the spine and rise up, rather than doing that rolling up one vertebra at a time. That's nice. I had a nice extended mountain after that on the Zoomies. The rolling up one vertebra at a time is fine for some people, but it's not very good if you have some spine difficulties. You can also do this sitting. I'll turn the chair that way so you can see. I'm coming to the edge of my chair. Feet wherever you want them. And you're folding over and letting your arms hang. You can rest them on the blocks or on something, but basically trying to let everything hang and feeling into that bodily sensation of letting go. You can also do this sitting down, fully on the floor, which can be more difficult for some of us. If you're on a cushion, it can help just to tilt the pelvis, keeping the blocks, or a cushion or a bolster. In fact, a bolster or a pillow is very nice here. So, legs stretched out in front. This is sort of staff pose in yoga. If you've got the back of your sit bones on a cushion, you're tilting your pelvis forward. And you can inhale and reach up to the sky. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Again, letting your knees bend as much as they want. Stretching your arms forward and sinking. Hinging as far as is right for you. And then dropping your head. But you can also use a bolster. I make these, they're homemade. I'm very happy to share the pattern. It's very easy. And if you have your bolster, you can rest your head on it and allow yourself to simply drop and sink and let go. So find the letting go that feels best for you in your body today. Perhaps you can even consider having that mantra in your mind. Soften and flow. Release and flow. I choose to let this go. You might think here or even visualize whatever it is that was in your mind leaving your body or shrinking in size, part of it leaving you. And notice how you feel. Notice how your body feels, how your breath feels, and any change or impact on your nervous system. And as I said earlier, if you feel nothing, that's okay. There's no right way or wrong way. And you can stay there, or you can come to seated, and we're going to have a guided meditation. So for this, I invite you to find the position that is most comfortable for you. You might want to sit in a chair, but you may wish to lie down. Have a drink before you settle, if you wish. Grab any pillows or blankets. Anything that brings additional comfort and ease. Now, in meditation, traditionally we sit tall, but I really would like you to find where you would like to be today. You can close your eyes, but some people find that quite uncomfortable. And you can also soften your gaze, not looking at the screen. You don't need to see anything on the screen. Finding where is right for you in position and with your gaze. Notice your body resting. Notice how it's supported by the seat or the ground, the mat, wherever you are. And perhaps you can visualize that connection with the earth. Gravity pulling you down to the earth, and the earth rising up to support you unconditionally. Notice your breath again. No need to change it. Perhaps you can sense the air coming through the nostrils. Notice the temperature there. If at any point you become anxious or unsettled or just don't feel good, please do whatever you need to do. Whether it's opening your eyes or looking around the room or taking a hug, do whatever you need. Come back to the breath. Coming through the nostrils and down the back of the throat. Perhaps you can feel that slight tickle at the back of the throat. The breath coming through the nostrils, down the back of the throat and into the lungs. Inhaling and feeling the lungs expand. Exhale and feel them soften and relax. You may notice the belly moving with the breath. Perhaps with each inhale, you can allow your body to soften a little more, letting go of a little more tension. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Notice the top of the head, the very crown of the head, and the forehead. The space and air around the crown and the forehead. Perhaps you can relax the muscles of the forehead a little more. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Notice the eyes and the cheeks, the muscles of the face. Perhaps you can find a little extra ease in those muscles. Notice the mouth and the jaw. Letting go of any additional tension. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Notice the neck and the shoulders. There may be extra tension there. Perhaps you can find a little extra ease. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Notice your arms, the upper arms, the elbows, the lower arms, the wrists and the hands. Each finger and thumb. Perhaps you can sense the space around the arms, the space between each finger. Notice any sensations which arise. Maybe tingling, vibration. See if you can find a little extra ease in the arms. Letting go of any additional tension in the arms, the hands and the fingers. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Perhaps you can imagine your arms breathing, bringing the breath through the fingertips, filling the arms, bringing extra ease. Releasing tension. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Now notice the hips, the upper legs, the knees, the lower legs. Notice the ankles and the feet and each toe. Perhaps you can be aware of the space around your legs and feet, the space between your toes. See if you can find a little extra ease in the legs. Letting go of a little extra tension. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Perhaps you can imagine the legs as though they are breathing, drawing the breath through the soles of the feet, filling the legs with the breath, spreading that ease. Inhale, soften. Exhale, letting go. Notice the pelvis and the lower belly. If you're holding any extra tension there. Any sensations that might arise. It's okay if they don't. Perhaps you can find a little extra ease in the pelvis and the lower belly. Letting go of tension. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Notice the whole of the belly. Whatever arises there. Perhaps you can sense the space around the belly, around the back. Imagine the space around the belly. And finding a little extra ease. You might imagine the whole belly filling with breath. The breath drawn through the soles of the feet, up the legs and filling the belly. Inhale, soften. Exhale, letting go. Now notice the chest, the basket of the rib cage protecting the lungs and the heart, the breath filling the lungs. Perhaps you can imagine the whole of the chest as though it's breathing. Breath drawn through the soles of the feet, up the legs, through the belly, and filling the whole of the chest. Bringing extra ease. And letting go of tension. Inhale and soften. Exhale, letting go. Now have awareness of the whole body. The whole body resting here. Perhaps you can feel and imagine the entire body filling with the breath. Perhaps you can imagine the whole body breathing. Resting here as a body. Breathing as a body. Inhale, soften. Exhale, letting go. Allow yourself to rest here, focusing on the breath, focusing on the body, finding ease, just for the next couple of minutes. Inhaling, softening. Exhale, letting go. If your mind wanders, that's natural. Come back to the breath. Inhaling, soften. Exhale, letting go. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just be. Inhale, soften. Exhale, letting go. As we come towards the end of this practice, you may wish to keep your gaze soft or your eyes closed. Take some gentle movements, noticing sounds around you and in the space you're in. You may wish to stretch or gently roll your head from side to side. You may wish to take a gentle hug or place one hand on heart and one on belly. Perhaps thanking yourself for taking some time to do this today. And an invitation to take with you into the day a sense of softening and letting go, wherever that may be useful in your life. When you are ready, gently open your eyes and come back to seated. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to stop the recording now and speak to the Zoomies.